Okay, so after housebreaking, what's the second biggest problem dog owners encounter? You got it, it's chewing. There's many reasons why dogs chew. People often think about the concept of dogs chewing just because they want to be destructive and they have nothing better to do. That may be part of it, not the destructive part, but nothing better to do. But let's start out with the new puppy coming into the household. New puppies are like young infants, just human infants. They teeth and their mouth and their gums and their teeth are cutting and they're in constant pain. So what do they do to eliminate the pain? Well, the puppy's instinct is to chew on anything it possibly can find. That could be your shoes, your cabinets, your woodwork, whatever you have in the house, your sofa, your rugs, just to help alleviate the pain he's going through while they're teething. Now, if it was a young human infant, what would you do? Well, you mothers out there know what I'm talking about. You'd run to the drugstore, you'd pick up a teething ring, you'd pop it in the freezer, and give the infant the teething ring, the frozen teething ring to chew on. Why? Because the frozenness, the ice, the coldness will help soothe the gums. Well, you can't give a puppy a teething ring, obviously, because he'll chew it apart. Years ago, what people would recommend is taking a washcloth, putting the washcloth in cold water and freezing the washcloth, and then letting the puppy chew on the washcloth to alleviate the pain. But think about it from a psychological, behavioral standpoint. You're teaching the dog to chew on towels, so therefore you can't yell at him when he chews on another towel when he gets older. Is there a better approach? You bet there is. One of the things I've been recommending for years that's been very successful for teething puppies, and kittens for that matter, is to take a treat or a toy. Now, I like this one. It's made by Poochie. It's called a Poochie Burrito. Why do I like it? Because it's already filled with something called Nutter. It's peanut butter. You can take these, you can break them in half for small dogs, pop them in the freezer, and keep a stock of frozen Poochie Burritos around, because this way, when your dog's mouth hurts him, you can give him the frozen treat to play with. It'll soothe the gums. You can also use a plain ice cube if you're around to watch the dog, because we don't want him choking. Or you can just take your finger and rub it on an ice cube and rub it on the puppy's gums as well. So when a puppy is teething, the most important thing to do is, first of all, keep the puppy well exercised. Second of all, help eliminate some of the pain by using some frozen toys to play with. And it's also a good time to start training the dog. So we've got you through teething, but now I get the phone call on the pet show and someone calls, "Hey Warren, my dog's a year and a half old. When's he going to stop teething?" And I usually say, "Ma'am, he should have stopped teething about 1 year and 7 months ago." So what is another reason? What are the other reasons why dogs chew? How about boredom? Let's take the average dog. We're living in a latchkey pet society. The average dog spends 8 hours a day home by themselves with nothing to do but watch General Hospital. You know what? I would chew the shoes in the house if that's all I had to do as well. So what we need to do is make sure we keep that dog mentally stimulated. How do you do that? First thing you want to do is make sure that you rotate your dog's toys. I know a lot of people will go to the store and they'll buy a bunch of toys, they'll put them all down at the same time, but it's like a kid. After a day or two, I don't care how expensive they are, I don't care how many there are, but they're the same toys that have been down all the time. What I recommend doing is rotating the toys. Buy yourself a dozen. Put down 6 on Monday. Pick them up on Tuesday. Put 6 new ones down on Wednesday. Put the old ones back down on Thursday. You know, by rotating the toys, basically what you're doing, it's kind of like taking a toy away from a child and giving it back an hour later. It's like a brand new toy all over again. So you want to make sure the rotation is there. And what about exercise? Let's face it, folks, tired dogs sleep, they don't chew. One of the biggest problems I have with excessive chewers are the boredom factor, but also the lack of exercise. 3 walks a day is not enough for a German Shepherd that was bred originally to herd sheep and cattle. You have to make sure your dog is getting enough exercise. 3 walks a day is not enough. Maybe a good romp in the backyard, maybe a jog around the neighborhood. If you live in an apartment building, I know what you're saying, "Warren, it's cold outside, I live in New York, how can I run with my dog or give my dog more exercise?" You know, I lived in New York for a lot of years, folks, and every New York building has a staircase. Forget about the elevator. How about staircase sprints up and down the staircase? And if you don't have a staircase, how about a little monkey in the middle in the hallway to get the dog exercised? There's no excuse not to give your dogs enough exercise, especially if you have a dog that's a big chewer. Now, I have been in let me give you a funny story. Years ago, I was training Gregory Peck, the famous actor Gregory Peck's daughter's dog, in Chelsea in New York City. And I get called into the situation. I go up to the apartment, and I'm looking around her apartment, and I said, "I don't see any problem. There's nothing chewed here." And she said, "Warren, come with me." And she takes me over to a closet where her dog chewed through the closet, went into a neighbor's apartment, and destroyed an antique instrument called a clavichord that was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The woman came home, her clavichord was destroyed, as well as other things in the house. Can you imagine? Can you imagine her surprise when all this stuff was chewed up in the house and she doesn't even have a dog. It was the dog next door that chewed through the wall and went into the house. Those are the type of chewing problems I deal with, but they can all be resolved. And once we've taken care of the exercise, once we've taken care of the boredom, once the dog is through the teething stages, what other possible reason could there be for a dog to still chew? Well, we hear the term a lot with children called pica. What is pica? It's a bizarre craving for something missing in their diets. There's so many dog foods on the market, and a lot of times pica has kind of been eliminated because of the good dog foods that are there. But I'm a strong advocate of supplementation for humans and for pets. One of the reasons I developed the Hugs and Kisses vitamin mineral supplement treats was, besides the good food that you're feeding your dog, I want to make sure that all of those nutrients are being digested properly so your dogs don't have a bizarre craving to go and chew those. So you want to take care of it from that aspect as well. Now, what about deterrence? You can go to the store and there's bitter this and there's bitter that and there's don't chew this and don't chew that. I've come across in my 30 years 2 products that I know work really, really well. One of those products is Bitter Yuck. Bitter Yuck works really good, but I always recommend that you use more than one bitter product so the dog doesn't become used to it. So I use Bitter Yuck and American Kennel Club Gold Indoor Ultra No Chew Spray. I mix them up, I change them around. This way the dog never becomes accustomed to it. Now here's the big mistake everybody makes, and I gotta laugh at this, and I don't mean to laugh at this, but just think about it from my perspective. You're sitting in the living room, you're watching reruns of Seinfeld on TV. Your beautiful little mixed breed adopted dog comes running in with your favorite Gucci shoe. What do? Well, this is what most people do. They take the shoe away from the dog and say, "Bad dog, phooey, what did you do?" And then they replace the shoe with a treat or a toy for the dog. What did you just tell your dog? You just said to your dog, "Hey, listen, dude, anytime you want a new toy or a treat, just grab one of my Gucci's and bring it in front of me. I'll take it away and reward you for it." So you don't want to do that. That is a major mistake. So teething, boredom, lack of exercise, mineral deficiency in the dog's diet are major reasons for chewing, but there's also another reason, and this goes for our cats as well. 80% of dogs and cats will develop some type of dental or periodontal disease by the time they're 5 or 6 years old. And if a dog or cat's mouth is hurting from periodontal or dental disease, again, they're going to become chewers. So if you really want to make sure that your dog is not chewing the things it shouldn't be chewing, not only make sure that everything in the house, and there's lots of stuff for the dog to chew, he's got lots of exercise, he's not bored. What about outside in the backyard? You know how many times I get people that call me up and say, "Warren, my dog's chewing the side of the garage." I even had a client years ago who had a this is the guy who wrote the Addams Family, Charlie Addams. He had a Bugatti, one of the most expensive cars you can buy. Calls me and he lived in the Hamptons on Long Island. And his dog had chewed the bumper off a Bugatti. The bumper alone is probably worth $60,000. And I looked around in the garage where they kept the dogs, beautiful garage by the way, and there was 1 or 2 toys. And I said to him, "Hey Charlie, what do you expect the dog to chew on?" He doesn't know how expensive a Bugatti is, but he needed something else to chew on. So make sure if your dogs go in the backyard as well, there's plenty of things for them to chew on. In my backyard, I have a kiddie pool. I know what you're thinking. Come on, Warren, you're a little eccentric. Well, maybe I am, but listen carefully. I bought a Flintstones kiddie pool because that's what Skylar and Cisco wanted. They didn't want anything but the Flintstones. SpongeBob, no. Flintstones, yes. I filled it with sand in my backyard. I have all kinds of toys and stuff for them to play with. It's their own little sandbox, and when in the yard, they don't chew anything up because they go and they get the toys they want to play with. So chewing, it doesn't have to be a big problem. Just make sure if your puppy's teething, you keep the gums nice and soothe them and make sure there's no pain. If the dog is chewing during the day when you're not there, he's probably bored. Rotate the toys, increase the exercise. Leave a radio on, a talk station before you leave the house. In extreme cases, folks, I've actually gone to the point of taping a family's conversation, throwing the dog's name in every few minutes so the dog is kind of fooled as to whether the people are really there or not. There's a lot of things you can do to stop your dog from chewing, but it's important because so many dogs wind up at shelters and pounds because they're chewers when these problems can be easily resolved. So no more chewing. Give your dogs a hug and a kiss. They'll behave, I promise.